Hey guys, I'm Brittany from Quarter Acre Roots, where we talk about growing a lot on a little bit of space, and it is a very exciting day today here in Maryland Zone 7A. It is early March and we are planting our spring garden. In this video, I'm going to walk through 14 things that you can direct sow in your garden right now in Zone 7, also probably Zone 6, maybe like wait a week or two, but we're right on the cusp of Zone 6 and 7, and I am planting all of these things in my garden right now. If you're new to gardening, when I say direct sow, I mean we are planting those seeds right into the ground or our raised beds. We're not starting seeds inside. It is the easiest way to garden, and there are 14 things that are absolutely going to thrive in the cooler weather before spring hits. A lot of people wait too long because they think it's just too cold, but a lot of the things that I'm planting today are very cold and even frost hardy. We have a lot to get into for planting today, so let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to walk through all 14 things, starting with the bed closest to the house up here, and just walk through things as I plant them. So items 1, 2, and 3 that you can direct sow right now in Zone 7A are carrots. I got these carrots for free from my lovely friends at Greenstock. I do not grow carrots a ton, and I was actually not planning to grow them, but when I got these, I thought, well, their seeds always germinate really, really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and plant those. The second one is chives. These are seeds that I saved from my mom's chives plant, and then some sugar snap peas. This bed right here is also one of the 2 beds that our cattle panel trellis is attached to, so I always grow a row of sugar snap peas right here because they do need something to climb. Sugar snap peas are also an awesome thing to add to your early season garden because they are nitrogen fixers for the soil. So one of the things that you do need to remember to do, though, you need to let those peas complete their life cycle, and then when you're ready to pull them from the ground, chop them down to like a couple inches above the soil line and leave those roots to decompose and release nitrogen into the soil. Let them grow for as long as you can because it's only after that plant is dying off that it's going to release that nitrogen into the soil. And if you're new to gardening, nitrogen is an essential element for plants to be happy. So anytime you can get it from growing something productive instead of buying fertilizer and spending money on that is a good thing to do. So I'm going to do a row of sugar snap peas along this cattle panel trellis here. Then I'm going to do a couple rows of carrots, and then I'm going to add just a few chives in because I'm going to do more of these chives in my green stalk when I get to planting my green stalk. Before I start planting in here though, I do want to show you guys what it looks like. So I have 2 sunchoke plants on either end of the bed here that I just popped in here to overwinter in the soil. I'm not planning to keep them in here. So I am going to carefully dig out these sunchoke plants and set them over near the greenhouse so I can plant them in a very large container I got from Costco. And then I also have all of my extra garlic starts in here. So I'm going to be planting very carefully around here. And then I have some cover crop clover in here that I'm also going to very gently be planting around because I do not want to chop this down until I absolutely have to, since I have it planted in here from last fall to help be a nitrogen fixer for this bed. All right, we got that bed all planted, and now we are going to work on the bed on the other side of the cattle panel trellis. So I've already come in here and done a line of those sugar snap peas along this side of the trellis. I like to do them on both sides. And then in this bed, we don't have any cover crops planted, but we have a couple things I'm going to be working around. First, we have this kale, this plant that I left in from last fall because I want this to go to seed in the spring because I want to be able to save some seeds from this plant specifically. And then up here, we've also got a couple green onion plants that will be rebounding soon for the season. Onions are biennial plants, meaning they take 2 years to complete their life cycle. So I left these in here because I want them to flower so I can save seeds from them this year. But I'm also going to be planting in this bed some new green onion seeds so I can start that biennial process over again. I'm going to be planting some rutabega, and this last one, oh man, what was this? Radishes. I think these were my cherry bell radishes. I'm growing a couple different types of radishes, but I'm gonna put the cherry bells up here. So to recap, we covered 1, 2, and 3 in the first bed. This bed is 4, 5, and 6, so that would be green onions, radishes, and rutabaga. For the green onions, I'm just gonna keep them right next to the green onions that I left in the bed because I will easily know which ones are which once they get to completing their life cycle because they will throw up these super thick stalks and create those poofy little flowers that look so pretty. I'm also doing bulb onions this year, but I really like to do green onions because they are much easier to grow. They are not nearly as vulnerable to pests like allium leaf miners as are traditional bulb onions. I also like to grow a lot of green onions because I like to chop them up and freeze them. They freeze really well. So then whenever I'm cooking something, I can just grab a Ziploc bag from the fridge or from the freezer, and take from that. Ooh, just found another little onion plant curled up in the soil here. I'm also pretty liberal when I'm seeding onions because onion seeds don't last for very long. They generally will start to decrease dramatically in their viability after just a year. So I like to seed dramatically and then replenish my seeds every year with onions. For our radishes, I'm just gonna do a line down the middle of the bed behind the green onions. I'm gonna run it the entire length of this bed because there's plenty of room, and I'm also going to seed these pretty liberally because I have a lot of radish seeds right now and I don't need to save that many radish seeds. All right, we've got this bed all planted here. You can see the older green onions I mentioned, the kale plant, and then we've got our line of new green onions along this part. We've got the radishes in the middle, and then I just went ahead and did some light rutabaga seedlings over here and on the opposite end because I don't need a ton of rutabaga. So I'm going to go ahead and pop some labels in because if I do not, I will forget probably within the hour what I planted here and then move on to our next bed. The next bed that we're working on here is a little different because I had this one covered in plastic sheeting for the whole winter. So my goal was to see what would live through the winter with me pretty much ignoring it, not even really watering it, just relying on condensation, feeding that soil and keeping it moist, and just keeping the cover on all winter. So I just took the cover off, and this is what we have now. We've already got some jump starts with our arugula, we've got spinach, and we've got some kale. So I would say that was a huge success. These are the three things I'm going to keep in these 3 rows, and then over here where there isn't anything, I'm going to be seeding some Swiss chard, which is a really pretty plant, and then I'm going to be putting some pak choi up here, and then just filling in the bare areas around some of these plants with some more spinach, like down here, some more fresh arugula up here, really just filling out this bed and then probably popping that cover back on. So that would make our 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th plants arugula, spinach, kale, pak choi, and Swiss chard. Sorry, 11. So we're up to 11. Next, we're going to be planting a bunch of lettuce. So this is the other bed I had covered in plastic. Lettuce is not as cold hardy as spinach and arugula and kale. So you can see that a lot of it did die over the winter, which is fine. It was just an experiment, but we do have a couple heads here that are still looking pretty healthy and are starting to take off. So I'm going to keep those in and then just fill in with several rows of lettuce all throughout this bed. I also have a sorrel plant here in the corner. This is a super heat tolerant green. It has a very lemony taste to it, so it's definitely an acquired taste, but I love chopping up sorrel and putting it in salads, especially because in the summer when other lettuce is bolting and it's too hot for it, I can kind of like dress up a store-bought salad mix with a little bit of sorrel from my garden. In addition to lettuce in that bed, I have a ton of room in the bed, so I'm going to round out our list here by planting some Daikon radishes, which I know I already mentioned radishes, but Daikon radish is like a completely different type of radish than like a little red snacking radish, so I definitely count that as its own thing. And some beets. Okay, so I've gone through all 14 things that I planted, but those aren't the only places I'm planting things. So I came back through our beds back here, this bed right here, and that bed over there I'm leaving empty because I'm going to fill those up with my onion starts and cover them with mesh covers to help protect them from pests that love to munch on bulb onions so much. In this bed right here, we have some winter giant spinach left over that I just kept in the ground to keep on going. I did a row of sugar snap peas around this trellis, and then I also added in some beets, and I didn't label here and I already forgot what I planted here, but it'll be a nice surprise. And then in this back bed here, I did one very long row of beets, one very long row of red radishes, and one very long row of Daikon radishes up here in the front. And then I popped this A-frame trellis in and used up all of my last bit of sugar snap peas on either side of this trellis. One of the things I'm trying to do this year is use up a lot of my old seeds so I can do like a big saving replenishment and then figure out what I need to buy for either this fall or next year. A lot of my seeds are getting kind of old, so I just need to plant everything and then move on, see what germinates, and kind of replenish my whole stock. I also went up my garlic bed here. You can see I've got little garlic starts popping up all along this bed. And in the middle, I did a couple clusters of Daikon radishes. I'm not really sure how these are gonna do here. I don't want it to be too crowded with the garlic, but I just felt like there was a lot of unused space here, and I have a lot of Daikon radish seeds, so I seeded them up the middle. We will see how that ends up turning out. Okay, so we're about done planting here. I'm gonna give everything a good watering and then just kind of let nature take its course. I'm gonna run through the 14 things here using my list because there's definitely no way I would remember them all. So we've got lettuce, spinach, kale, arugula, chard, Swiss chard, green onion, chives, radish, Daikon radishes, which I do consider a separate type of radish because I use them for other things, rutabega, beets, peas, or in my case here, sugar snap peas, carrots, and pak choi. So if you are looking to start your early spring garden here in Maryland Zone 7 or anywhere in Zone 7 or Zone 6, since we're kind of right on the line of Zone 6 and 7, I hope you found this video useful. There is so much that you can plant early in the season to get a jump start on the growing season so that when you're getting out for spring, when you're kind of like chomping at the bit to get those tomato plants outside, you've got plenty in the garden to keep you occupied for the time being. So until my next video, happy planting.